everybody, I'm Joe, and today I'm here to talk about Avengers: Age of Ultron. Wow, we've been waiting for this for 3 years now, ever since the first Avengers movie, which was a lot of fun and a really big surprise for a lot of people. Because a comic book movie where there's a whole lot of big, larger-than-life characters, that obviously was going to raise a lot of red flags in people's minds. When they look at that on paper, you go, okay, how are they going to fit all that into this movie without making it feel too cluttered? Boy, did it surprise a lot of people. Now, for those of you who have been following my Phase 1, Phase 2 reviews, you know that I think The Avengers is one of the best comic book movies out there, and I still remember seeing it in the theater and just being blown away by it. I'd go, wow, that was awesome. And of course, when they announced a sequel, I thought, oh, that's pretty cool, but you know, it's not going to be as good as it was seeing them for the first time. And it's kind of unfair to think about it that way. There are some flaws here and there, but this movie is definitely a lot of fun. It's definitely the best movie of the summer so far. The story takes place about sometime after Captain America Winter Soldier. The Avengers are out there doing their thing, of course, but then Tony Stark has the need to create an artificial intelligence and calls it Ultron in order to give the Avengers a reason to not be able to fly around the world, protecting the people of the Earth from the threats such as the Chitauri, since he's still in a way haunted by those memories of going up into that porthole in the first Avengers movie. But of course, with something like an artificial intelligence, it becomes self-aware and decides that the only way to save mankind is to eradicate it all completely. Now, I was obviously really excited for this movie, but going into it, I had to hold my hype meter down, because if I was really hyped to see this, I more than likely would have been disappointed. And I think it worked, because this movie was definitely a lot of fun. I'd probably have to watch it a couple more times to try to get a more solid opinion, but right now, after thinking about it a little bit and hearing other people's thoughts, it may not be as good as its predecessor, but nevertheless, Joss Whedon, I think, does it again. The actors, of course, I don't think I've ever seen them be bad in these movies. Robert Downey Jr., he could play this role standing on his head for all I care. He's still hilarious. Chris Hemsworth is Thor. He's awesome, bringing that hammer to the table. And Captain America, my guy. As you can tell. Chris Evans, once again, he's great. Mark Ruffalo is the Hulk. He's also really good too. Scarlett Johansson. Please don't tell Jennifer I did that. Not a whole lot I can say about the main leads in this movie. We all know who they are by now, because we've already had the previous movies to develop them. But Hawkeye, he gets a lot more attention than he did in the first movie. And when I heard about that, I was afraid it was going to come off a little too forced. Like the movie was going to be like, okay, fans complain about how he was underused in the first one, let's just shove it in their faces and hopefully they can accept it. But no, it actually came off very naturally. And there's a certain line in here, I won't say what it is specifically, that Hawkeye says. I just went, that is perfect, as a reference to how he was used in the first movie. And Jeremy Renner, he kicks so much ass in here. Not to overhype it, but he's really good. I don't want to give too much away, but the new guys here, I think they deserve an equal amount of attention. The twins, Wanda Maximoff and Peter Maximoff. If any comic book fan knows the real names, please correct me, I'm sorry. Aaron Taylor-Johnson and Elizabeth Olsen, they're really good in their roles. But I have to say, my favorite out of the two is Scarlet Witch. Her powers are kind of scary in a way, because she has these powers to make you hallucinate and see your worst fears come to life, and it can really drive you insane. Aaron Taylor-Johnson is also really good as Quicksilver, and I don't mean to compare him to Evan Peters in Days of Future Past last year, but I like Quicksilver better in Days of Future Past. That being said, Aaron Taylor-Johnson did it very well. Though I gotta be honest, the accents I could have done without. They were kind of distracting. Now the two big guys I want to talk about are Vision and Ultron. Let's talk about Ultron first. James Spader. I haven't seen a whole lot of stuff that he's been in. I know he's in Pretty in Pink, and he's also in the show Blacklist that was on NBC recently. And I do remember seeing him in Lincoln, but I don't remember his performance that much. Since I've seen the previews of Age of Ultron, anytime I see a picture of him, or if I see him in a movie or a TV show, his Ultron voice starts playing in my head.
There are no strings on me.
Even though his reasons for being a villain I thought were maybe slightly rushed, he still manages to really capture your attention whenever he's on screen. And when he first shows himself in Ultron form, those eyes and the music that queued up, I literally just went, whoa. I'd say he's one of the best villains Marvel Studios has done, right up there with Winter Soldier and Loki, and Wilson Fisk in Daredevil. He has a really clever sense of humor too. Since he was created by Tony Stark, he obviously would have taken up after some of Tony Stark's mannerisms. And when I heard that he was going to be comedic, I just thought, okay. But they really made it work in this movie, and I thought, oh, okay, I see what they're talking about. And Vision. Not to give away too much, but Paul Bettany as Vision, that is probably one of the best comic book characters I've ever seen in a movie. Paul Bettany kills it. I wasn't really sure what to think of him, seeing him in the trailers, but after this movie, I take all that back. The score by Brian Tyler and Danny Elfman, as you probably know, did music for the original Spider-Man movies and the Tim Burton Batman, and he's done a few other musical scores here and there, like for Silver Linings Playbook, and I think maybe Good Will Hunting. The score was really good, and it felt in a lot of ways very reminiscent of the score from the first Avengers, and some of the best action sequences we had, especially the opening. That was a really cool way to open it. And as you could probably tell in the trailer, the Hulkbuster armor that Iron Man uses to fight the Hulk, that was one of the most intense sequences ever put to a comic book movie. And it's one of those times where it can actually make you feel sad, happy, fun, not to go too deep into it, but it manages to hit all those right beats just at the right time without it coming off as a bit too tonally jarring. And of course, with the ending, you got the big city battle with the Avengers fighting Ultron and his army. We've seen that a million times in something like Transformers and most recently Man of Steel. But without going into too much detail, the way it comes off to me, it looks like Joss Whedon really didn't like how the city fight in Man of Steel was handled, so he really went out of his way to do something a little bit different as far as like taking care of the citizens of the city. I'll just leave it at that. That being said though, this isn't a perfect movie. There are, not a whole lot, but there are a couple times where it's like, okay, is everybody following this? Okay? You with us? Okay. This is one of those movies where you have to watch it a couple more times, and you really got to pay attention to what's going on and what's being said. Otherwise, you're going to miss something. I'm sure there's a couple of things that really went over my head because I tend to get a little bit distracted sometimes watching a movie, and I'm probably going to have to watch it again just to see what I missed because there's a lot of stuff going on in this movie. Whereas the first Avengers movie was a very simple premise, this, I would say, is a bit more complex, and it kind of pushes the line of being bloated a little bit, but then it holds back and doesn't feel too bloated like, say, dare I say it, Amazing Spider-Man 2. And yes, Spider-Man 3. It's not too bloated, but at times it can be a little bit too jumbled. And Joss Whedon has said that he had to cut down at least an hour of footage from this movie for time purposes, which is understandable. I mean, you can't fit everything into a final cut. And I do hope that we get an extended cut with the Blu-ray release, because I would like to see how the alternate cut looks, especially with the alternate ending. I'd really like to see how that turns out. But overall, this movie, for the most part, pretty much lived up to my expectations. I had a lot of fun with it. It may not be the best Marvel flick in the franchise, but I think it's definitely one of the best. Just about came to the level of the first Avengers. And I can't wait for Infinity Wars. Make sure you don't get up when the credits end. Oh, and in case you were wondering, there was that supposed leaked after credit scene that had Spider-Man talking to this window washer. This isn't really a spoiler. You don't have to worry about that. That's not in there. And it didn't really look real anyway. I'm kind of glad that it wasn't real. Again, it's not really a spoiler, but there are no references to good old Webhead. I kind of wanted to see it, but it wasn't there. I'll get it. I'll get it at some point. Can't wait for Ant-Man, and I cannot wait for Civil War. So guys, what did you think of Age of Ultron? Did you like it? Love it? Thought it was okay? Did you hate it? Whatever you thought, comment below and let me know. And till next time.